What's up, guys? Dials46 here. I kind of wanted to take a pause and step away from some of the average videos I've been doing lately as far as reviews and gameplay and some of the other fun stuff, and kind of do a little throwback, little touch back to my roots, going back to the day where I used to do some videos that helped out new players. And there's tons and tons of videos out there, new player handbooks, guides, tips, and tricks and things, and they're filled with a lot of information, so definitely make sure you're doing your research and get all that information that you need out there. But the more and more I see a lot of these videos, they don't really hit you with a little bit of these truth bombs that I wanted to kind of lay out there and help you guys out with. Also, I'm going to be showing you some gameplay instead of just staring at me talking. I think that'll be a little bit more enjoyable for you guys. So here we go. First thing I want to talk about is CO2. CO2 airsoft pistols and rifles are super enjoyable to shoot. The recoil and the blowback, a lot of fun, super satisfying. But CO2 is a higher pressure gas compared to green gas. It's a more stable gas, which makes it a great option for different temperatures when it gets cool outside and things like that. It doesn't cool down as fast as green gas will, but there are some downsides to it. Being a higher pressure gas, you're going to want to make sure you're paying extra attention to your O-rings, sills, valves, anything that's made out of rubber that's holding your CO2 in to be airtight. You want to make sure that those are staying lubed up, moist, and not drying out. Also, make sure that the lubricant you're using is going to be 100% silicone lubricant, and make sure you're picking the right weight silicone lubricant. There's going to be different consistencies out there. Generally, for a CO2 blowback pistol, you're going to want to use the lighter weight stuff to keep those O-rings and valves lubed up. So when you have your 12-gram CO2 cartridge, make sure you're putting a drop of silicone right on the head of that thing. That's going to be popped on the neck of it. That way, when you pop that CO2 12-gram cartridge, that oil will be right there. The silicone will get all throughout the gun and all throughout the sills and O-rings that it needs to get on, and that need to be lubricated. The other thing real quick is I see a lot of guys just cranking down on their CO2 cartridges, especially when they start hearing a leak. They think if you tighten it tighter down that it'll stop that leak. That's really not the case. So with a newer gun, general practice is you only want to do it hand tight, and I know everyone's going to be a different strength out there, but just don't over tighten it. Get it tight and then maybe give it another quarter turn and leave it as is. You don't really want to like Hulk smash these things, because if you start over tightening it, you're going to ruin your puncture valve and that seal up there, and then you're really going to have a leak. So if you're tightening and it's still leaking, it's probably not due to it being too loose, needing more tightening. It's probably more of a dried out seal or blown out O-ring type thing. So CO2 is a lot of fun, but it's also a lot of responsibility, and with great responsibility comes great power.
Hold on.
Get it? CO2 power? Okay.
Yeah, that is our flag, I forget.
AEGs, automatic electric guns. So when you're out there and you're shopping around, doing your research, trying to narrow down your decision and your purchase, you're going to see that a lot of these guns that are going to be the budget-friendly guns, the cheaper guns, are coming from China, and the feet per second, the velocity is going to be a little bit higher on these guns. Some of them are shooting over 400, up into 430 feet per second straight out of the box. So that's awesome that you want to save a little bit of money. That's cool, but keep in mind you're going to have to spend a little bit more money to get that spring downgraded to meet the local field requirements. These guns are coming out of China, and in Asia, parts of Europe, and the US, all of our feet per second velocity laws are going to change and vary from country to country. Just because you get a hot gun doesn't necessarily mean that your local field is going to change their rules just for you.
Keep on. Roger.
Get on your local Facebook regional groups and ask around, find a decent tech out there, and usually you can get your spring downgraded for 20 or 30 bucks. If you want to save a few bucks and get that Chinese gun, that lower end competition gun, that's fine. Just know that you're going to have to spend a couple bucks a lot of times to get that feet per second downgraded. Across the board in the US, indoor is going to be about 350 feet per second with a .20 gram BB, where outdoor is going to be 400 feet per second with a .20 gram BB. So bear that in mind. The other thing is, with these guns, a lot of times they'll come with a cheaper battery and charger. And the battery that it comes with is going to be kind of like a starter battery. It's not really going to stand the test of time. It's there to kind of get your foot in the door, let you see what it's all about, but you're going to want to replace that battery eventually, as well as a charger. Make sure you're getting a charger that's got a good trickle charge effect, a smart charger that's not going to overcharge and cook your battery once it does have a full charge on it. Don't cheap out on the batteries. Get something decent. So a couple things you don't want to cheap out on along with your battery and charger is going to be your eye protection. Now, I'm not talking about just cheap eye pro. You definitely want to make sure that your eye protection is going to have a full seal gasket, either a rubber or foam gasket around the eyes. Go ahead and do yourself a favor, get that now, and make sure that it's ANSI rated, that it's impact rated, so you can actually take a BB to the lens and not have to worry about it cracking or shattering. The other thing with goggles is the fogging issue. You'll find a lot of times from the paintball world dual pane goggles, and dual pane goggles are great for helping prevent fog fight fog a little bit, but they're not fog proof. They're not they don't defeat fog. The only way to really kill fog in its tracks is with airflow. So if you're a big time fogger, you want to make sure that you have something that's going to have airflow. So either goggles with a fan built into it, paintball mask with a fan built into it, or there's actually separate fan units out there that you can plug into any goggle, which are a huge help. So do your research on that, especially if you're a big fogger. And in paintball, they work for the 5, 6, 7 minutes that a speedball match lasts. But in airsoft, when you got 20, 30 pounds of gear on, and you're going through the woods for a milsim event in the hot summer in the Midwest or something, you're going to fog up. So the only real way to kill fog is with airflow. So those are things you don't want to cheap out on. Battery, charger, iPro. If your battery's not working, your charger's not giving it a good charge, you're not shooting stuff, you're not having fun with the goggles. If they're fogging up and you can't see who you're shooting, you can't see who's shooting at you, you're not having fun. So those are things you don't want to cheap out on. One thing that you can cheap out on is gear, especially when you're starting out airsoft. Don't be afraid about the super big name brand stuff. The best example I've ever heard is, I'm not Michael Jordan, so I don't need the latest Air Jordans. I don't need the official Michael Jordan jersey. It's the same when you apply it to airsoft. We're mimicking real world guys out there, so I'm not a real Navy SEAL. I don't need real Navy SEAL gear. Now that stuff's awesome, don't get me wrong, but if you're just getting started out, you might not know what you like, what's going to work for you best, what's going to be comfortable for you. So spend a little bit and then spend a lot later on. And don't be afraid to cheap out on gear. A lot of this gear, like the stuff coming out of China and the Condor gear, isn't half bad, especially for airsoft. If you find that you're going really hard in the paint, you're really roughing your gear, then go ahead and upgrade and spend a few more bucks. But for starting out, just go with something simple like a chest rig or a simple plate carrier with some pouches, just to see what you like, just to get your foot in the door. AEG maintenance, or automatic electric gun maintenance, small upgrades and things like that. So let's talk about that. You're going to see a lot of guys that are talking about, I swapped out this part, I put this in there, I got rid of this and replaced it with that. Honestly, if you just leave things alone, a lot of these guns are going to be optimized to their full potential out of the box. And you start pushing these guns and they're going to push back, and you're going to see a bigger failure rate. All these guns are going to be based on the granddaddy of them all, the grandfather, Tokyo Marui. Now, I'm not going to sit here and preach Tokyo Marui. For those of you guys that have seen my videos, I'm a big fan. I've got a soft spot in my heart for Tokyo Marui. But that being said, you have to understand that Tokyo Marui designed the modern day gearbox. Yeah, there's been some improvements, some for the best, some for the worst, but the Tokyo Marui gearbox hasn't changed much in the last 20 going on 30 years, especially when it comes to the version 2 gearbox. The old Tokyo Marui guns, they were only shooting 260 feet per second, 270, 280 out of the box. So now we got guns that are shooting 400 plus out of the box, a lot more powerful spring, and the quality of some of the other parts are probably lacking, and so we're seeing a lot more failure rates out there, and that sucks. When you see a gun, going back to that high FPS thing with these China guns, these budget guns trying to save a buck, just because it says 400 feet per second over the one that's 350, it's not that big of a deal. It's not going to make that big of a difference in range, accuracy, power, performance, or anything like that. What you're going to see a big difference is longevity and durability. You're going to see that stronger hitting spring in those cheaper guns with the weaker components is going to have a higher failure rate. So don't buy into the hype. Don't be sold on a higher feet per second just because it's a bigger number. While we're talking about version 2 gearboxes, you might one day encounter for yourself the dreaded version 2 select fire lockup. So what's going on is you might be shooting in full, and then all of a sudden you pull the trigger again and it's just clicking, or it's only shooting in semi, or you're in semi, it starts clicking, and then it starts shooting in full auto or something like that, right? So what's going on is we're in the age of the LiPo batteries, and a lot of these LiPo batteries are high dump. And that being said, a lot of these batteries are from the RC world, where their motors can actually keep up with this stuff, and the circuitry and the contacts in those RC cars can keep up with those batteries. It's not necessary in airsoft, and a lot of times it's overkill and just plain unnecessary. So if you encounter this with the select fire issues, put your gun on safe, flip it to semi, fire a couple shots, boom, 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 put it back into full auto, fire a burst, and it should have worked itself out. Now this goes all the way back to the original Tokyo Marui. Here we go again, I know. Tokyo Marui manual, the troubleshoot manuals from like 1995, the M4 original manuals in it says if you experience issues with your select fire, do exactly what I said. Put it in safe, then semi, then full, and cycle through it. Make sure everything's good to go, and it should reset itself. You're basically just resetting the circuitry is all you're doing. So if your gun's doing that, it doesn't mean that it's a piece of crap. It could mean that your battery has a higher dump on it. So if you're using like a 25C LiPo, maybe go down to a 20 or a 15C. Like I said, a lot of these guns, even if you have a souped up motor, it's just not necessary, and it's just kind of overkill. So do yourself a favor if you encounter that a lot and downgrade your battery. One last thing I want to touch base on is that if you're just starting getting into airsoft, don't set out to join a team or create a team and try to push that feel out there. You know what I mean? I can't tell you how many teams I've seen kind of come and go. And the bad thing is these guys, they're all new players. They form a team. Everything's going good. If something goes bad with these guys, they're not getting along anymore. It's just not working out. The whole team breaks up, and then one by one, you don't see them play at all anymore because they kind of got into it for the wrong reasons. Now, that's not to say that having a team isn't awesome and teamwork isn't awesome. It is. That's a great thing. Really, what you want to do is get out there to your local fields, meet some guys. You'll meet some awesome people. You'll make some awesome friends, and just kind of start playing Airsoft and find out what Airsoft is for yourself. And then, you know, if it clicks, if you're finding dudes that you really like, that you really want to run with all the time, and that you guys just really get each other and it works out as a team thing, then go ahead and suggest that. But I wouldn't set out to say, hey, this is my team, or I'm creating a team, you need to join it, blah, blah, blah. 9 times out of 10, it doesn't work. So don't try to force that stuff. Just have fun with it, because that's what Airsoft's really all about.
A little bit. Yeah,
make sure you're having a good time out there. Of course, make sure you're always staying humble, play with honor, call your hits, and don't step on snake. I'm Dials46. If you like this video, make sure you give me a thumbs up, subscribe, head over to my channel, check out some other videos, and I will catch you next time. Thanks, guys.
Pierce is down. Watch out right side.